Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Mastering JSON Management with Aqua Data Studio. My name is Carmen Safioti, and I'm the Marketing Coordinator for Aquafold. I'm excited to present this webinar to you today. The rapid growth of JSON usage has made it essential for data professionals to have the right tools. Aqua Data Studio is a powerful tool to streamline your data management workflows. And here to present Aqua Data Studio's capabilities is Darren Fulmer. Darren is an Aquafold Solutions Architect with 18 years of experience using databases and database IDE tools. Before I hand things off to Darren to start the event, I would like to take a moment to remind you that we will be hosting a short Q&A after the event. To this end, we ask that you direct any questions that you may have during the event to the questions panel. Finally, this webinar is being recorded and will be available to view on demand after the event has concluded at any time. And with that, we're ready to begin. Darren, you have the floor.
Thanks, Carmen, for the introduction, and thank you, everybody, for joining us here today. As you may or may not know, Aqua Data Studio, or sometimes referred ADS for short, is a multifunctional tool that enables you to perform a wide range of different tasks in your data environment. Some of those key functions include your database management and administration, SQL development, query execution, data visualization, reporting or analysis of your data, database schema design and modeling, and there's so much more in the tool itself, its capabilities. But what many people are most familiar with is our industry-leading SQL IDE. I'm not going to go into too much detail about these tools today, since our focus is on JSON. But we recently had a webinar focusing on this topic, but I wanted to give you just kind of a quick overview of those capabilities. The IDE is the key feature, and it's also where we're going to be spending our time today in the presentation with JSON. We're going to be going live through the tool to make those demonstrations. But just to touch on a few areas of the IDE, there's color coding. You can see that in the slide there at the top. You can color code your database environments to help visually identify what kind of, if you're in your test, development, production. There's, of course, right-click menu capabilities in the server list. You can run multiple queries or a single query out of a window at a time. This includes Snowflake if you're in a hybrid environment. You can select samples of your data through the grid results, export that out. There's a lot of functionality with moving or manipulating your data returns. You can do find and replace. You can search specific data in the search bar in your grid. So it's a lot of features that you would expect to find in a mature IDE. You can do script formatting. You also have the capability of using the automate menu. With the automate menu, and we'll demonstrate a little bit of that when we're working with the JSON live in the tool. But the automate menu gives you, it'll write out your inserts, updates, deletes, input the column information. So you're doing a lot of clicks to build out your SQL so that you're not having to actually physically write the code. Also, you can do ad hoc pivot results for the data that you pull back, so you can do, quickly see, visually charting of that data. Aqua Data Studio does have a dedicated reporting tool built in, the visual analytics component, and we'll also actually touch on that when we're working with our JSON. But I just wanted to go ahead and run through some of those areas that real quick, so that everybody has a good understanding of the just the tip of the iceberg of capabilities within Aqua Data Studio. So, these features, along with the features that you see here, along with many others, makes ADS a powerful tool for SQL development and database management. We recently hosted a webinar that was focused exclusively on Aqua Data Studio SQL functionality. If you're interested in diving deeper into these capabilities, if you missed that webinar, I encourage you to visit our resource page, and I'll put up the link for that towards the end of the presentation. But you can find that recording there, and a lot of other recordings on different topics within the tool itself. So based off of feedback we received during that webinar, we realized that we would be valuable to spotlight Aqua Data Studio's functionality regarding JSON. So we're going to go ahead and shift now to JSON management with Aqua Data Studio. So, what are the main differences between JSON, database, a NoSQL database, and SQL databases? And that basically is how the data is stored and organized. So a JSON database or a NoSQL database, data is typically stored in a very flexible, schema-less format, often using JSON or JavaScript Object Notation documents. Each document can have its own structure, and there's no need to define a fixed schema beforehand. JSON databases are designed to handle large volumes of unstructured or semi-structured data efficiently, and are well suited for where the data schema might evolve over time, or where the data structure is not well defined in advance, such as web applications, Internet of Things devices, document-oriented systems. The social media is a good example. Whereas your SQL databases, those are data organized into tables, predefined schemas consisting of rows and columns. Each table has a fixed structure, that's defined by that schema. The data types, there's constraints, and SQL databases enforce data integrity through those relationships, constraints, transactions, ensuring that the data is consistent and accurate. They are ideally structured for structured data, well-defined schema, such as financial records, inventory management, or similar type of environments. So in essence, the choice between a JSON database and a SQL database depends on the nature of your data and the requirements of your application. So if you need flexibility and scalability for handling diverse or rapidly changing data, a JSON database may be more suitable. On the other hand, if your data has a clear structure and relationships and you require strong consistency and transaction support, a SQL database might be a better fit. That's the beauty of Aqua Data Studio, is you don't have to learn a different tool for each of those different types of environments. Aqua Data Studio can be used by developers in both. Or if, let's say, you're in one of these many companies that have had multiple acquisitions, and you're now working, with you have a SQL background, but now you also have to work with your NoSQL environment through JSON. Aqua Data Studio gives you that ability to use a single IDE in that kind of hybrid environment as well. So it can help those users that don't have that familiarity and be able to work in those different types of environments with either direction. So if you're a JSON user and now you have to deal with a SQL database, ADS can do that, or vice versa. So we're going to go ahead and switch over to the actual tool. Don't want to spend all our time in PowerPoint. So let me just go ahead and switch over. Give me 1 second. All right, so you can see my Aqua Data Studio. I have it set up. One thing about Aqua Data Studio is very customizable. You set up your workspace however you like. Again, you have your color coding that I mentioned earlier, but I'm going to be working mainly with Mongo, as that is the NoSQL environment that we have set up in a VM. But this will apply to any supported NoSQL database that Aqua Data Studio does support, and it does support over 40 different database platforms. Your NoSQL, SQL, Cloud, very diverse tool. All right, so let's go ahead. I'm just going to go ahead. First thing is, if you're used to working with JSON scripting, Aqua Data Studio will allow you to do that with your NoSQL databases. So I'm going to go ahead and just demonstrate a few capabilities against the Mongo. We'll just go ahead and right click, and you get a lot of different options from your server. Right click, depending on where you choose in your tree. But we're just going to go ahead and open up a Mongo JavaScript or JSON window. And from here, you can start typing out your JSON commands that you're used to. The nice thing about JSON is a very user focused language, the very easy language. It's not the structured language that you find in SQL. So for example, here, we're just going to go ahead and show you a list of the databases. We're going to go ahead and execute that. We come down here into the text, and you can see the listing of the databases here. So if you're used to just using JSON commands, you can do that through the JSON shell in the query analyzer. You can also just use the shell if you'd like. So again, I can just right click in the right click menu. I can come down here, since we're using Mongo, it's the Mongo shell. But here again, show databases. We get our list of databases here. You can then, of course, use to your switch over to that database that you want to use. So we switched over to the DF Aqua database. And then, we can always create a, collection if we want. So for example, database, we're going to do a create collection. And we're just going to name this one the webinar, since that's what we're on. Okay, so we went ahead and we executed that. So if I come over here, my databases, and then under DF Aqua, I can click on my collections, and you can now clearly see the DF on this webinar is there. So you can, if you're used to writing just using JSON, Aqua Data Studio will allow you to do that real quick and easy using the shell on your NoSQL database. You can build out multiple collections if you want. You can also, start inputting data into that collection if you want. You can easily just do a, quick command. To do an insert. Trying to make sure I can see all that correctly. Hope if I could type this morning. Yeah, so just I'm not going to keep writing. I could keep typing out the whole insert statement, but you can clearly see how easy it is to work with your JSON in the Aqua Data Studio shell window. Now, let's say that you don't have a lot of experience with writing JSON. Syntaxing, of course, is much easier than SQL, but if you've spent 18, 20 years doing SQL and JSON is now integrated within your company and it's all new to you, Aqua Data Studio gives you the ability to just go ahead and use the SQL commands to go ahead and do this kind of work as well in your JSON environment. So you can see that in your right-click menu again. So I'm going to go ahead and open up a, let's see, we'll just do this one here. Open up a query analyzer window for DF collection. And now this is going to give me the ability to work with SQL in my JSON environment. So I can do a select star from. I can let the IntelliSense pop-up open up. We're going to click on the collection. I'm going to go ahead and hit execute. And now I have my data results set. So depending on where your strengths and background is, you can use either or. You can use your shell to use JSON language to do your work. If that's not where your strength is in SQL, you can also then just switch over to a query analyzer window and execute SQL against those NoSQL environments. So very useful to help you either to learn the structure, the syntaxing, the commands, or whichever way you're faster in working in that environment, you have that capability in Aqua Data Studio. Now, as I mentioned before, there's an automate menu functionality. So you can go ahead and just let Aqua Data Studio do a lot of the writing for you. So if we come up to the automate menu here, I'm going to go ahead and introduce a select statement. And you can see it's starting to write that. We're going to go ahead and pick the DF Aqua or DF collection again. So we're going to go ahead and move to after the where clause. You can eliminate that where clause if you want, or you can space, and then you can select an object. So I'm going to go ahead and select age in this situation. And then we're just going to go ahead and put some parameters here. Let's see, equal to. All right, so then we can go ahead and execute this and get our results. You can see here the results set. And you can, as I mentioned before, you have the ability to come into your grid. You can highlight this information, you can export it out into Excel, or you can actually push it into our visual analytics or our reporting tool. And I'll demonstrate that in a little bit. But here you can also, you can sort ascending, descending if you wanted to, depending. You can move your columns around if that's also something you need to do to manipulate your data to get a better look at it. So you have a lot of capability. You also, as I mentioned before, you can do searches. So from here, let's say we just want to see, Utah. You just start typing, it'll drop it down. So that, again, you have a lot of capability built into the tool. You can also, as I mentioned before, build out pivot grids. So when you're working in your grid environment, you can get your data results set here. You can go to your pivot grid, which you turn on in your query menu option. So you'll see here, show pivot grid. You can just check that. The tab will then start appearing within your editor. And then you can just go ahead and start doing some quick ad hoc reports of, let's see here, row field, just to chart your data that you're looking at. And you would just go ahead, after you develop your fields, you can go here to the chart icon, and now you have a quick chart available. You can zoom in, zoom out. This is three-dimensional. Of course, there's only one person in this demo from every single city, so the chart doesn't look fancy, but you get the idea. You can ad hoc that information real quick and easy. All right, so one of the other features that Aqua Data Studio has to assist you in developing queries for your JSON environment is the query builder. So the query builder allows you to do a drag and drop capability. So if let's say you're a data analyst or a business analyst and you just have a need to pull data out to run reports in the visual analytics tool, you're not familiar with JSON, you're not familiar with SQL, but you still need to be able to manipulate the information in your databases to pull that data out. Aqua Data Studio has the query builder functionality. The query builder, there's a menu item at the top, but again, right click is going to be your most valuable friend in these situations because it does all the connections for you, so that's one less step that you also have to take. So again, if we go here to our Mongo JSON environment DF collection, if I right click on it, and then I can come down here to query builder. So if I click on the query builder, that's going to open up a free floating window that's going to have the collection of items that you can choose. So from the drag and drop capability, so you don't need to know either JSON or SQL to be able to run your different types of queries against your database. So for example, here, I'm going to just go ahead and drag the DF collection over into the workspace, and you can see it's writing SQL for me, but it is converting it in the background. There is a enhancement to allow you to be able to see either the JSON command or the SQL command in a NoSQL environment. That's something that has been requested by other JSON users, and it's been submitted for review to determine how effective or how difficult that may be. But here you can see it's already starting to write out code for me. You can, if this is all you need, then you can just hit the execute button if you'd like, and then get your grid result. This is going to work very similar to the SQL editor. You can sort again, you can move columns, you can do searches, all that. Export it out in Excel, push it into Visual Analytics. But let's say this is still too much information. You can do quick drag and drop into, let's say we want to do the where, drag the item into the where box here. So I drag age. We're going to change our operator. We're going to input our value. So let's just 23. We're going to hit save, and you can see now it's added a where clause. You can do that with grouping by, tab order, whatever you need to build out very complex SQL. And then from here, you can execute with the green arrow, and then you can get your data results back. You know, the query builder is extremely useful when you have users that don't have a lot of experience in either writing the JSON or writing SQL. Then they can utilize this to do a just simple drag and drop and visually build out that query so that they can accomplish the job that they need to do. All right, so one of the other things that Aqua Data Studio allows you to do in your JSON environment is to push the data that you've pulled from your queries into the visual analytics tool or reporting tool within Aqua Data Studio. And it's super easy to do, so let me just go ahead and clear this, execute that. And then, so here you can see there's a visual analytics option here. You can open the main menu, but then you're going to have to make all your connections and everything. If you come from your grid result and you click on that, that's going to go ahead and open up a visual analytics reporting tool for you. And again, it uses drag and drop functionality to build out your charts. So depending on the objects that are in that environment, you'll get it split out into different dimensions and measures based off the data type. And you know, it's real easy. Again, you just drag and drop you know, your objects in and start building out a chart. Aqua Data Studio has some intelligence built in there to allow it to determine what's the best chart for what you're dragging and dropping over. But here, you know, you can add data labels if you want. You can go ahead and you know, switch it horizontally or vertically. You can do ascending or descending. Whatever best suits your needs for your reporting. You can also come in here to the visualization tab and pick different charts if you don't like the one that it automatically chose. You know, so you can come in here and, you know, select a side-by-side. You can come in and you can select radar, you know, and switch charts very easily. You know, Aqua Data Studio allows you to go ahead and build these charts using the worksheets. Once you've done that with the worksheets and you have the chart you want, you can then open up a dashboard, which is this icon here, or go to the dashboard menu. But once you have that, you can just click on your dashboard, drag your report over into it, go to File, you can export it as an image, HTML, PDF, Excel, you know, whatever is best suited for your organization. You know, there's, again, this is very simplistic in this demonstration, but it shows you the ease and simplicity and power of working with your JSON environments and being able to build out charts off of that data that you're pulling. Of course, it's just one of the very many useful tools in Aqua Data Studio. If you need to get a better understanding of all the different objects within your NoSQL environment, you can also utilize the ER Modeler tool. This allows you to either reverse engineer or forward engineer new environments. But if you go again here to DF Aqua, if I click on it, if I go to the tools menu and then come down here to ER diagram generator, if I just click on that, I'm just going to go ahead and select the collections and views. I'm just going to keep the defaults. This will just take a moment, depending on how many objects are out there, depending on how long it'll take, but this gives you a visual representation of all the different objects in that collection. So you have your different collections here. DF Webinar, that's the one we created. DF Collections, one we've been working with. And it gives you information as to what is in that environment. Real easy to add more. You can just click on collection, drag it over, drop it, double click on it, and start filling out all the fields. Real quick and easy to be able to do that. But this gives you a, delete that, but real easy way to look at what are under those different collections. Again, from here you can also go into the tools menu here, and you can actually generate a script, select the objects, and build out a duplicate environment if you need to. Within the also within the tools menu, there is the ability for you to do compares. So you can compare data between a couple of different collections. You have the ability to look at different. It's referred to as a schema compare, but you can look at two different collections or databases in your NoSQL environment to compare them if you need to. You can compare data between collections as well. So if you need to see if a collection in a test environment or a collection in a production environment match, you can do that with Aqua Data Studio in your JSON environment. So, again, one of the strengths of Aqua Data Studio working with your NoSQL database environments is, again, it's a single IDE tool to be able to run across multiple platform environments, so that you're not having to learn proprietary tools for each one. You don't have to learn a different IDE for each one. You don't even need to learn the different language for each one. If that's something that you don't have time to do, you can leverage the strength that you have with regards to utilizing your JSON skills. And again, it goes both ways. If you have been working with JSON for years, decades even, and that's where you're familiar in your coding, you have the query builder capability to just go ahead and now work with those SQL environments and allow Aqua Data Studio to build out the SQL code for you. Again, you don't have to relearn an entire new language to work with your environments that you are now finding yourself with. So really, really strong in that aspect, working in a hybrid environment. Now, as I mentioned before, there is some resources available for all Aqua Data Studio users. If you go up to the help and go to online documentation, this is one of the resources available to you. So if you click on that, it'll open up a web browser, and then this is going to give you all the documentation on Aqua Data Studio. Information on the query builder tool, on the visual analytics, the different tools and features. So, you know, the import export capability, which you have as well with your JSON environments. So you can learn a lot from the documentation here as well. The other option, the resources page that we had mentioned, is if you go to aquafold.com and you go here to resources and you go to our resource center, you click on that, and then you can sort by the videos, and you'll have a lot of different video options to choose from. So you can review a more in-depth video on the query builder or more in-depth on the SQL editor, whatever you may or may not, you know, need to learn and look at. You can review these videos at your own pace so that you can absorb that knowledge as you need to. All right, well, so that is my presentation on the capabilities of JSON. It's very, I know it's, we went through a lot of information fairly quickly. The webinar is being recorded, so you have that capability to go back and review it after they process, you know, webinar processes it and gets the link out to everybody. So with that, we'll go ahead and take a look at the questions.
Thank you for that great presentation, Darren. So starting with the first question from Scott Wendell. He asks, I will need to work with JSON, REST, API. How can ADS help as I discover and return from that source?
Okay, Scott, can you elaborate a little bit on your question? Are you still with us, Scott? We maybe, let's see here. Let me take a look and see if Scott is still with us. I may need to unmute him. Oh. Okay. All right. Thank you for adding that information in there, Scott. So you're not working with any kind of database at all, just an API. I'm going to have to look into that a little bit and see how Aqua Data Studio handles that kind of environment for you, Scott. But we do have your email address, so I'll dig into that a little bit for you, and I'll get an answer to you as soon as possible, okay?
I will also be providing an email address that you can reach Darren or the sales team at Aquafold if you have any other questions. Okay, I don't see any other questions. Oh. Okay, so will attendees receive a copy of the slides and an acknowledgement of attendance?
Yes, well, you won't receive a copy of the slides, but what you will receive is a link to the webinar. So it'll be the recording of all the different slides that were presented and the commentary.
Okay, I don't see any other questions. So just a reminder, I pasted the email addresses in the chat. Thank you so much for joining, and we're going to end the presentation now. I would like to thank Darren Fulmer for his presentation, and I invite you all to head over to aquafold.com to download a free trial of Aqua Data Studio, which was highlighted for us today. Again, this webcast is being recorded, and an email with the recording link will be sent to you within the next week. Thank you all for joining us, and we hope to see you back at our upcoming online events.
Thank you, everybody. And Scott will get an answer for you as soon as we can. Have a good and blessed day, everybody.